Is all yellow. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to John Dudley Speaks. I'm your host, Ryder. Coldplay, the now iconic stadium rock band from London, has sort of been the millennial generation's version of U2, and given their wall of sound aesthetics and larger-than-life themes, it's not hard to see why. Their humble beginnings of Safety and The Blue Room aided them in their signing to Parlophone Records, which led to the release of their debut album in 2000, Parachutes, assisted by some of their most enduring live tracks ever, including Shiver, Don't Panic, Trouble, and of course the now classic Yellow. Their debut is a Radiohead-inspired take on gentle alt-rock that was refreshing for its time. 2002's A Rush of Blood to the Head doubled down on this approach, lightening up their grip on their dynamics to give way to more accessible song structures. And that's where we got total smashes like the Grammy-winning Clocks, as well as In My Place, God Put a Smile on Your Face, and the now classic The Scientists. X and Y found this sound broadened even more with Fix You and Speed of Sound, but it was clear the band was in need of a shakeup. Viva La Vida, released in 2008, was produced by the legendary Brian Eno, allowing them to reach their sonic and thematic ambitions with an eclectic piece of art pop. Their exploration into different facets of their artistry continued into the 2010s, albeit to a mixed effect, with some Technicolor splashes being offset by EDM-infused balladry, optimistic pop rock, and some seriously stark Baroque pop as well. Music of the Spheres, subtitled From Earth with Love, the first of one last set of 4 records to close out the band's career, came in 2021, and the buoyant vibes akin to A Head Full of Dreams didn't exactly receive the best reviews at the time, and that goes for fans and critics who criticized the thin songwriting and flat production. But overall, it is a good amount of fun despite it being their worst album to date. And plus, it has one of their best songs ever recorded in Coloratura, so that's gotta count for something. So with its follow-up, Moon Music, which is a flip side of that aesthetic, in theory, should we anticipate a mellower side of the same coin? We should, and that's what we get. And it's a restrained yet ornately constructed piece of modern alt-pop that often is quite uplifting, although it does suffer from the same problems from the band's recent misfires. As expected, Coldplay are back with super producer Max Martin as well as Bill Rocco, Daniel Green, and Ilya. And with that suite of pop maestros at the helm, you can expect a sweeping melting pot of mainstream dance, alternative stadium rock, and genre-bent world beat. But is it interesting? Not really. And is it good? Not really. There are some major musical highlights here for sure, like on the Stargate-assisted Jupiter, that has a ton of fun with its Halsey-influenced acoustic-tinged electropop. The Baroque piano and string touches, and atmospheric mixing of the title track and the closer One World, are particularly breathtaking, especially when put up against Coloratura. And the weird, swanky EDM synthpop of AETERNA is blissful and enthralling, sounding like it was pulled right off the band's 2017 EP Kaleidoscope. Outside of those wins musically, it just feels like fairly stock backdrops to what will inevitably be played on their tour, now the highest grossing tour of all time, which is awesome. But on record, a lot of the life and character feels withdrawn from these instrumentals. An example of this would be the lead singles, Feels Like I'm Falling in Love, We Pray, and All My Love, all of which struggle to establish a musical identity outside of what Coldplay's done before. Plus the danceable funk pop from the Chainsmokers on Good Feelings comes off as very generic and weak compared to other iterations of this in the mainstream. Because of that, it feels like we're hearing Coldplay retread the same instrumental ground, from the somber piano keys of One World that could be likened to the band's first 3 albums, to Johnny's The Edge-inspired guitar tones on Feels Like I'm Falling in Love, to even the spoken word passages on Alien Radio, which feel ripped right out of A Head Full of Dreams for some reason. It's not bad by any means, and a lot of the core songs at the heart of these instrumentals are almost gripping and almost emotional, but the production absolutely blunts it with frustratingly dull progressions. If there's one thing that's really sloped downhill post-Ghost Stories for Coldplay, it's definitely been the band's songwriting and storytelling. Much like other bands before them that have reached their pinnacle and tend to lose that relatability that they gain once they start to tour in front of sold-out stadiums every night, Coldplay has reached a point in their career where their lyricism revolves around universal love and connection, and while that's admirable in many respects, I'm not sure it's ever been all that engaging on a thematic level. Conversely, songs like We Pray boast collaborations with Little Sims and Burna Boy that push forward a UK grime tilt that Coldplay's dabbled in before, and the verse especially from Sims is empowering. Even Chris Martin's allusions to championing freedom and women's rights are terrific and tasteful. But the problem is, that's too few and far between. Jupiter is another one that emphasizes loving who you love, and brings to the surface a message about acceptance that's truly beautiful, but again, it's just too few and far between. Good Feelings is a pretty weakly written pop song that remains quite surface level in its ability to connect, and I Am a Mountain, while fine, is repetitive and vaguely inspirational, which isn't terrible, but it's just uninteresting. I felt like Coldplay had a chance to wow us like they did on AETERNA with One World and Alien Song, Alien Radio, but the level of ambition just does not match the level of substance there, so it falls flat. I for sure could have used more unwieldiness like on AETERNA, and less run-of-the-mill pop like on Feels Like I'm Falling in Love. But overall, it wouldn't help much to pull Chris Martin out of this mode he's been in since 2015, since the arrangements are often too stale anyway to be memorable. Okay, so I'm aware that I've been rough on the instrumental and writing aspects of this record, but make no mistake, Coldplay is still a talented band, and they demonstrate that quite a bit on this record. Chris brilliantly introduces his trickling keys into the mix on the title track and on All My Love, and I couldn't help but feel a familiarly hair-raising chill come over me during those songs. And though generic, that still applies to Johnny's guitar work across Feels Like I'm Falling in Love. And although it's the most processed thing here, the band excels far more than I thought they would have on a track like AETERNA, because the melodies and the tuning are dynamic and feature propulsive rhythms and grooves from Guy and Will. Of course, Chris's voice will always be a point of discussion on a Coldplay record, and that's the only place where I feel like they came up short on this one. Particularly at the end of the record, the tag on One World is pitchy and rough, and it's a tough way to close out the album. And there are parts here where Chris's tones are a bit grating, and that's partly mixing, but it's also partly just a bad take. And Feels Like I'm Falling in Love really takes the cake for me in that regard. Good Feelings is pretty phoned in, and his vocals on We Pray are quite forgettable. So in comparison to the features on the latter and Ira Star on the former, he just doesn't bring the best energy. At least we do get a low-key Chris Martin on AETERNA and Jupiter, but it's just not enough to put this anywhere near the upper echelon of Coldplay works. The absolute best component of this record is its efficiency, and that shows through in the track listing. At 10 tracks and 44 minutes, there's rarely a moment that feels unnecessary or tacked on, even if some of the songs themselves don't fully click. However, the 6-minute oppuses of Alien Song, Alien Radio, and One World oddly miss the mark, failing to establish a coherent tone and composition, so it just comes together as if the band didn't fully know what to do with the ideas behind these tracks. I feel like a heavy pop-leaning cuts like Feels Like I'm Falling in Love and Good Feelings really blunt the momentum of the track listing, so the track-to-track progression feels a little clunky because of that. At the same time though, it is a fun, enjoyable listening experience that never loses its levity and heart, so it's one that leaves you with a lot of hope and comfort rather than ambiguity.
As much as I could, as much as I tried, I just couldn't seem to find a word.
By embracing the alternative side of their sound and their fans' appreciation of their assortment of styles, Moon Music turns out to be a mildly successful record that, while not moving the needle really at all, adds heartfelt emotional flourishes that detours from the norm as the band conveys their semi-maximalist vision. And honestly, what more could you ask from Coldplay at this point in their career? But hey, that's just my perspective. If you're a Coldplay fan, there's a good amount to like here, even if it is a ways off from their heyday. And if you're in the mood for a record that champions positivity overall, through peppy instrumentals and a fun-loving tone, you'll enjoy this one. Alright, that's all I got. Bye!